Women like you are just gonna die alone with cats and box wine. Good luck being alone forever. It doesn't even matter that every single study shows that men are the ones who are gonna die alone. Reality? Nah. Men are done with women like you. Do you promise? Real men want... Hold on. Real men want traditional women. Like, okay, so go get one. Why are you talking to me? You know those dudes that'll call you a whore because you won't sleep with them? Or they ask you out and you say no and they're like, you're ugly anyway. Okay.
Welcome to the TikTok influencers you really should know about. I'm your host, Christine Blosdale. In this podcast, you'll get to meet TikTok creators who inspire, motivate, and entertain. Get ready to discover the influencers you may not have heard of yet, but you definitely should know about. Welcome back to the Talk Influencers you really should know about. And my guest today is someone that you really should know about, especially if you've encountered the vampires that are narcissists. And I am so happy to have, I've been really looking forward to having Lisa on my show. My guest is Lisa Sonni. She is a trauma bond recovery expert and relationship coach. I also affectionately call her the narcissist slayer, but that's just me.
I love that.
And she's got a great TikTok page that you need to check out. But we're going to talk all about that, all about narcissists and how we can escape their evil, I don't know what that
claws.
Is.
Yeah,
Claws,
their web,
yeah.
their claws. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, welcome to the show, Lisa.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, you know, what got me was I stumbled across one of your and we'll play it in a little bit if that's okay. One of your videos, and it was the one where you're in your car, I think, and it was just about this thing that's happening where some men of the narcissistic persuasion, especially, are saying, you women need me, you need us, this, and you were just laughing so hard. And I just was like, I love this lady. She is just so real. And then I dove into your other videos and I was like, wow, okay. So this is apparently a big issue, narcissism, right?
Yeah. More than we think.
Yeah. Can you talk about how you got started on this and maybe sharing your story a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. And the truth is, my story is where I started, which, and I think for a lot of coaches, you do kind of start in that realm of you've got personal experience and then you learn about it. Now, you'll hear this joke a lot in the narcissistic abuse recovery realm that we get PhDs in narcissistic abuse. We all go to NARC University. There's no such thing, of course, but you immerse yourself in it because you're just so confused and trying to understand. So for me, I was in a relationship with an angry person, a crazy person, a person who was amazing and sweet and magnetic and charming and hit me and lied to me and cheated on me and destroyed me. And I know that's like, wait, what? But that's what it's like. They're the most amazing person and you hate them because they're also the worst person. And narcissistic abuse has been described as total destruction. I don't think there's a better way to describe them. That's exactly what it is. But I didn't know that it was abuse and I didn't know that it was narcissism until I was out of the relationship. And I feel like I got out with my life barely. But when I got out, I started to just talk about it and learn about it a little bit. I started making videos, but it was really not about narcissism. I was making videos about leaving a relationship that was hard to leave or leaving a relationship where the person was kind of still being awful to you. And then I was like, oh, this is abuse. And then I started watching other people's content. And it was actually mental illness who made me realize it was narcissistic. And then I talked to my therapist. And then it really, I was like, oh my God, that's what it was. So I have since found out that this is not just my own little belief or one of those women that calls her ex a narcissist.
Right.
He was a true narcissist in every sense of the word. And leaving was the hardest thing I've ever done. Like I think back, I'm like, how did I survive? But in the end, what I learned was that I was in a trauma bond, and that is not always true of people who are in this, but it was definitely true for me. And that's why I specialize specifically in trauma bonds.
Well, and especially since, because I've also a victim of a psychopathic narcissist, right? We and I think part of it is that you can't conceive in your mind that someone would do this, would that someone would purposely, and they're great liars. They're actors beyond. They need, I have a little thing here. They need an award for their performance, right? Because the love bombing happens, and we'll get into this a little bit too about they find your weak spots by having you open up to them about your, if you've got issues with your body, or if you had trauma as a kid. But they do this by saying, I'm your soulmate, I've never felt this way before, blah 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 blah. They're very charming, right? And so you think that you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe how lucky I am, wow. And then, but you would never think that someone would do this for sport or for energy harvesting, which is what I've discovered as well, is that some narcissists, this is about keeping you in a state of confusion and emotional. Once they can get that emotional hit off of you, it's like a feeding frenzy. That's why I compare them to vampires, because that's what it's all about. But you never think that like, who would do this? Who would spend not just months but years?
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's not just you. They might have others that they're doing this to, right?
Yeah, they often do. One is never enough. Supply is something they want and need so badly that they'll get it wherever they can. And that's often why not all narcissists cheat, but that's why many of them do cheat, because they want the most amount of supply. People don't understand, like, why cheat? Why not just be single? Why not just be in a polyamorous relationship? You don't get it. It's because the cheating is part of the game, the thrill, what they can get away with. And also, like, polyamory would mean that everybody gets to participate in
Right.
outside of the relationship. And that's not what they want. They want the control. But that's the piece that's the trickiest, because you don't want to control people. I don't want to control people. It seems like the strangest motivation, but why? Don't they just want love? No, they want control.
No, and as I was saying before we hit record, I had interviewed a master narcissist. I love how he called himself a master narcissist.
That's so
HGQ.
narcissistic, by the way.
I know. Oh, and he had the deepest, most intense British accent, and so he spoke like this, and and so, but his whole thing was saying that he goes, I lack empathy, and that's why I'm dangerous, because I don't care. I don't care if your heart's broken. I don't care if you're crying. I don't care. And I was like kind of shocked. Like I was like, what do you mean? And once I started diving into it a bit more with him, and we did a couple different episodes, he was able to start to kind of talk a bit also about his childhood, because my thing was, listen, are you creatures are you born narcissist, or are you created? Because they are a monster. I'm sorry, but that's how I see them. And with him, I was learning that there was a creation where at some point in his life he shut off his empathy. His heart was shut off, so that made it easy to do these things. Right. It's no excuse at all. But when you figure it out, like you did, when you're in a relationship, you're married, the father to your kids, whatever, if you find that you're in a relationship of any sort, that this person lacks that empathy, that really gives you a moment for pause, doesn't it?
Oh, it absolutely does. And the thing is that the biggest, I mean, it's cognitive dissonance, this confusion of like, they love me, but they hurt me, and he respects me, but he cheats on me. Like, it doesn't make sense, he or she. It's such a confusing thing, but the lack of empathy, they're telling you, but I do. And the thing that I hear a lot, I see this in my comment sections and my clients all the time, is, but he does have empathy. He has it for other people. He just doesn't have it for me. And I'm like, no, you're confused. He doesn't have it for other people. He displays what looks like empathy for other people for his own gain. A, so that you're confused, and B, so that everyone around you is like, but
Oh,
Steve's so great. But Sally's amazing. How do you, oh my God, that's so weird that you have that experience with them. Like, that's the point. This is why they will, trigger warning, but like, that's why they'll beat you in the kitchen and scream at you alone in the car. They're not doing it at the grocery store. People say that, they just lose control. Abuse is one of the most controlled things. They know exactly what they're doing. They know exactly who's watching. It is very calculated, but I will say that it's not so calculated that every move is a plot and a plan. A lot of this becomes their nature.
yeah.
It's just, it becomes innate and secondary, or they just know how it works. They know what works in movies. They know what works in their own relationships, and they just hone those skills and keep going. I also want to comment on something because there's a lot of new research about where narcissism comes from. And there's a very outdated belief that it is born of trauma, or that it is directly and solely related to parenting. And, I actually find it almost interesting that a lot of narcissists kind of love that, like, my mom hurt me and that's why, right? It's her fault. And I specifically
Right.
say her, it's mom's fault, as if men have no bearing on men who become abusive. I mean, the fact is that men actually learn it mostly from men, not narcissism, abusiveness, I meant.
Right.
But narcissism has been studied more recently, and frankly needs way more studies. There's not a ton of research on this, but Dr. Peter Salerno has written a book called The Nature and Nurture of Narcissism that is gripping if you're interested in the topic of narcissism. He actually explores why we think it comes from trauma, and essentially, paraphrasing, but it's biosocial. There are parts of it that are actually genetic, and there are parts of it that are trauma, and there are parts of it that could come from, let's call it, inconsistent parenting. So maybe a parent who really coddled and really gave the child a lot of chances, and no matter what you do, you're my baby boy, you're my love, I love you so much, that they learn that entitlement and that grandiosity. So there is actually no one single cause,
Right.
and there is no definitive answer, and yet people seem to have sort of agreed that it's trauma based, and there is a whopping zero amount of research to support that belief.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So what is it about them? Why do
Well,
we have to deal with these people?
I know. I think that one of the suckiest parts, though, is that if I tell you it's a little bit genetic and a little bit this and a little bit that, people are like, so like, how do we prevent it? How do we, and you know what? I don't know the answer to that. Sadly, I can tell you a lot more about how you can prevent yourself from being in a relationship with one than how to prevent the, let's call it, creation of one. And it is a little bit about recognizing the signs. So you talked about love
Yeah, the
bombing,
signs. Yeah.
and I want to tell you what people miss about love bombing. When we talk about love bombing, we talk about it as this sweeping, you're my soulmate. Oh my God, I've never felt this way before. And it's so, yes, maybe, but also it can be a lot more covert than that. And I think that's the part that people miss. It's not always these big grand gestures and grand statements, but it
Right.
is the feeling. And so the mirroring you. Oh, me too. Oh, so my childhood, something, something. What about your childhood? And they pull it out of you. And, actually, I was reading a book called Run Like Hell, Dr. Nadine, who's the Wolf of Wall Street's ex-wife. So, like, she knows what she's
Wow.
talking about with
Yeah.
narcissists, right?
Yes.
She talks about this process called mind mapping that's really interesting, where they are gathering information about you. And it's, just, I'm not that close with my parents. You didn't go into a lot of detail. You just mentioned that. But people who are not particularly close with their parents, like, there's something there, right? Why? And so the narcissist will sort of pick away at that, unpack that over time, and learn that, I'm making this up, but you have abandonment issues or
Yeah.
rejection issues, or your dad was in jail or something catastrophic, or just that you kind of didn't feel seen or heard. That's all. They pick up on little things. So I'll tell you one thing that mine did that was really pivotal, that in the moment went right over my head, which is he was persistent and I was flattered. And so he asked me out that night and I couldn't go. So he said, what about tomorrow night? And I actually couldn't go. So I said, what about the weekend? He was busy. So he was like, well, what about tonight? And I said, well, I just told you I'm busy tonight. And he was like, so not tomorrow either? And I'm like, dude, come on. And I laughed and he was like, well, what about tonight? I was so flattered. So what I taught him,
Right.
and I went on the date, by the way, and I was the captain of a volleyball team, a rec league for clarity. Our team had a perfect score of losing every game, but I was willing to sacrifice as a captain to not go to a game and go ditch my friends to go be with him, 27 years old. And he learned that I was the kind of person that would shift my plans for him, that I would prioritize him. We hadn't even gone on a friggin' date yet. And I was already like, how can I shift my life around for you? Because I'm so flattered. In hindsight, how embarrassing of me. But many of us do that in our own way, where we sort of, we're trying to be accommodating and he's cute and we want to go out and it's one game and we're losing them all. All these things I told myself. But what he was doing was testing me. So I
Yeah.
wouldn't say that was mind mapping yet, but it was a test and I failed. I
Well,
failed hard.
but that's so cool. One thing with my experience with a narcissist, and I'll tell you one, because so much of the love bombing, and then the quiet, the silence, the ignoring, what did I do wrong, and then nothing, that whole thing of, again, energy harvesting, right? Because you're in scared mode. What's going on? When I actually put all the pieces together and figured it out, after I got over the fact, like, that question of who would do this, who would pretend to care for someone, right? Once I got over that, I felt my heart shattered. And I've talked to a few people, women, most of the experiences that I've encountered, and the people that have talked to me are women who have experienced this from male narcissists. There are female narcissists, I know, but their experience, and they said, oh my God, yes, my heart shattered. It felt shattered. And I don't even know how to really express it other than that. And I put off human beings. Like, I said, that's it. I looked at my little toy poodle and I said, dude, it's you and me, because I don't trust. And it was a woman. And I don't trust men. I don't trust women. I don't trust humans, because I don't ever want to go through that again. And then a weird thing, God in his humor put my now wife in my life like a month after this. And I was like, are you real? Are you like
I asked my partner the same thing. I kept, are you real? Are you real? The person I'm with now, like, are you? He was like almost bordering annoyed. Like, why wouldn't I be real? I'm like, you don't know.
Yeah,
What
you
I've
don't
been through,
know
man.
what I've been through. But
Yeah.
did you yourself also experience that shatter effect? Or were you pissed?
Shattered is exactly the word. Like, I don't think I could even express how perfect that word is. It was like he broke me into a million pieces and then just was like, and just blew the pieces into the air like it did. I was meaningless. It was absolutely, it was like a plaything, like a cat or like a lion almost going after something that you've already killed me and you're still just whacking it around. They never stop. It's relentless. It's relentless with these narcissists. And the piece to remember is that was the point. But it seems so unbelievable. Like, who would do that? That's not real. That's movies. That's like Dirty John. That's Ted Bundy. No. The truth is that people talk about narcissism and they say, like, it's only 1%. You know, those really invalidating people who are frankly hyper uneducated on the topic, they'll say it's only 1%. Now, the truth is that's the diagnosis, right? 1% of people are diagnosed. But what do we know about narcissists? They're perfect and there's nothing wrong with them. So they don't seek a diagnosis.
No,
Some
no.
experts, like the Mayo Clinic quotes, it's more like 5%. Take somebody like Dr. Ramani, who, let's trust Dr. Ramani, who's quite the person to listen to on this topic, written so many books. She's easily one of the world's most renowned experts. And she believes that it's more like 10 to 15% would meet the criteria for a clinical diagnosis. Now, the other piece to that is that narcissism is not a personality disorder. And people are always like, what? Narcissism is a personality trait, and narcissistic personality disorder is a disorder. And so if you look at it like a spectrum, some people say everyone's narcissistic. I mean, sure, that's not totally true, but I get why people say that. But if you look at it as a spectrum, the people who are high on the spectrum, but maybe don't meet the criteria for a diagnosis, I'm still going to call you a narcissist. And that's because you walk like a duck and you act like a duck. So I'm going to call you a duck,
You're a damn
whether
duck.
you are one or not. Like,
Right.
what's the joke? You don't need to be a veterinarian to know that a duck is a duck.
Yeah.
So I don't need to be a doctor. And I'm not diagnosing people when I say it. And if anything, I tell survivors to kind of detach from the label, because it doesn't really matter if they're a narcissist. What matters is that they're narcissistic. And what matters is that they're treating you really poorly and that you are confused and stuck and you blame yourself and you're experiencing guilt and anger and overwhelm. These are always the common feelings that keep us so stuck. And then you don't know how to get out. So when you're trauma bonded, you're like feeling particularly confused, and you love the person that you kind of hate and you can't picture life without them. Something I say a lot, they're the knife and the band-aid, pain and the comfort. They're everything to you. And so when they hurt you, you seek them out. But really, what's happening is this kind of chemical addiction, the dopamine and the oxytocin and cortisol, and it's all flying around in your body, but it creates this addiction like feeling where you kind of feel like you're going to die without them. But that's the shattered that we talk about. You are already shattered.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and you had mentioned too, like let's give some help or some suggestions for people if they
Mm-hmm.
do find maybe they thought they because again they make you think you're crazy, or you feel like you're crazy, right? Oh, I'm too
Mm-hmm.
sensitive, or no. But what would you say? And now I know personally, I know that there is no rehabilitation. There is no, you cannot love them enough. You cannot change these people. And so you have to absolutely go no contact, as if they've died, and you put the flowers at the, at the grave, and it's done. You cannot contact them. But can you give, because for some people that's still very hard, right? Because
Oh God, yeah.
they're part of they're
Slash
part of their life.
impossible. Some
Yeah,
people, if you've got kids, now some people can go no contact with kids, but it is harder. So I recommend, like in those cases, as low contact as possible. But the
correct.
truth is, like, what can people do? I think one of the hardest pieces is when you're in the relationship, you don't know that they're abusive. Maybe you don't, you're still sort of like, it feels like abuse, but also it's my fault, because if someone treats you badly, it is not your fault, full stop, right? And that, so if you are being told that you're causing their mistreatment of you, if you're in a relationship that started amazing and now it's your fault that everything's fallen apart, I just want you to consider that that person has the free will to leave. So ask yourself why they're staying, really. And don't listen to their answer. Really, you consider why they're still with you if you're so awful, like you say, like they say. But start to watch videos, go on TikTok. Like, yes, watch my content, but there's a lot of great people that you can watch. Dr. Romney, Dr. Carrie McAvoy, Mental Healness, Sinful. I could name so many. There's some great people to watch. Learn a different perspective. Learn what we're all talking about and go, could that be me? And just start to think. Now, if you can get yourself into, because I know therapy is a privilege for people, but get yourself into therapy or coaching with someone who understands abuse, even if you don't quite get that it's narcissistic abuse, but understand that you need to be talking to someone who understands domestic violence and abuse.
Correct.
Because even if you're not being hit, it's domestic violence.
Yep.
Because a lot of people go into therapy and then the person's like, well, what are you doing to contribute to this? Because therapy is sort of, that's what it's for, right? Like taking ownership and looking at your own role in things. But when you're being abused, your role is more like, why do you stay? Not from a place of judgment, but curiosity. Like, what's keeping you there? What's he or she doing to make it so hard for you to leave?
Right.
So start looking into who you can talk to. And if you can't afford that, free Facebook support groups. Like I have an inexpensive toxic free relationship club that you can join, but free, there are some free resources, albeit limited, but try, even if you can scrape the money together for a few sessions, but at least watch all the videos, start searching narcissistic abuse, search trauma bonds, learn as much as you can, because education is the first piece to start to come out of this fog and start to see it. You need to know what's happening first.
Mm. And put your little Sherlock Holmes hat on and do, because one thing that you find is also very common is triangulation, where there's, again, there's multiple people. They're pitting them against, they might be saying to you, oh, you're my soulmate, I love you so much, but they're telling other people, you know what, she has a mental disorder, and she's kind of crazy, and or they'll say I'm trying to leave her but she's so desperate, and this that, right? So that is a thing. And also the flying monkeys. Are you familiar with the term?
Oh, I love the term. I
Okay.
remember when I first heard it, I was like everybody else. I was like, what?
Flying
So for
monkeys.
those that don't know, right, we love that. Wizard of Oz, absolutely, that's where it's from. But they did the bidding of the Wicked Witch of the West. So these are the people that are like flying around, the narcissists that are doing their bidding. And they can be set up to do that, right? Through smear campaigns. I also find, like, kind of to what you were saying, this, I'll call it feigned concern, like Christine's been acting really weird lately. And have you noticed that? Is she on drugs? Have you noticed? And it's to get, like, oh, I haven't noticed. And then if you ever are a little erratic, ever, for any reason, I'm going to go, oh, maybe it's seed planting, right? Because the covert ones are going to say Christine's a B word. And the covert ones are going to be like, I'm just really concerned for her, or she's acting crazy, or tell you some wild story, or flip it. Like last night she hit me. Meanwhile, they hit you or yelled at you, they'll flip the story. So smear campaigns, and it's really hard. And then it's all coming at you at the same time while you blame yourself, and your family's not supporting you, and no one understands, and you're losing your mind, and you have no money and no resource. It's like shattered. It's the worst.
And they isolate you as well, so that you have nobody to turn to. The flying monkeys thing is like, when you piece that together, you're like, what?
Yeah, then you can start to spot them. It was like a game of whack-a-mole, Whoop, flying monkey, whack, flying monkey, whack, and you have to get these people out of your life. But it's sad when your family sometimes becomes that. I didn't experience that, but I know many people whose family sort of like, well, we like them, and
they're so nice to us.
So many people. Yeah, he's really nice to us. Or like, are you sure?
Planned. Exactly.
Yeah, and it is. And that's why they're so nice to other people. Like, I just want to drive that point home. Like, that's the point. It's so that really you think that person's not nice. I don't get that version of them. I think they're so nice. It's so that you go, well, maybe it is me.
Maybe it is.
Or the way that they can kind of control you to isolate you. People think of controlling, and I always use the same example because it's so like everyone gets this, is like, you can't have short hair. That's control. Yeah. You can't go there. That's control. It's pretty obvious, right? Well, what if it's like, you can go? Of course you can go. And then when you get home, they stonewall you, ignore you. Or when you're out, they blow up your phone. If you, like, I used to have my phone on the table face up, and if he messaged, I needed to answer, because if I didn't, oh, I love how you always have time for your friends and you never have time for me. Or sometimes others, not mine, but like, will accuse you of cheating, or, why are you wearing lipstick to the gym? And it's like, I just was wearing lipstick earlier and I just didn't take my makeup off. Or, oh, who are you trying to impress? They don't want you to go to the gym because the gym makes you feel good.
Right.
So they want to take things away from you, take your social network away from you, but it's very covert.
But it's also to make you think that they're jealous, right? So like, well, this person must really love me. Oh God, they're
so jealous.
I'm
just insecure. I just need to know where you are all the time because I'm insecure. And then you're like, oh, because that's kind of a vulnerable thing.
Right.
Jealousy is, to be very clear, you want to talk from like a healthy perspective. If I am a jealous person, that is a problem of one person, which is me, and I need to work that out. If I'm in a relationship where I feel jealous because like he cheated on me, that's different, right? But I'm talking about nothing's happened and I just feel jealous all the time. I need to go get a therapist and talk to my therapist about that. That's my problem. But as soon as I use my problem to tell you that your behavior should be different, that's control. So even if they're jealous, which I don't believe, I agree
they're
with you.
Not jealous.
But even if they're jealous, they're still trying to control you. So like, no matter what color you paint that, it's control. So don't fall for that.
I think it's a way to like make you think that they love me so much that they're jealous that I just talked to the postman. Oh my goodness. Yeah. It's crazy.
Now you find yourself looking at the floor, or like, a Starbucks barista, there's two lines, a man and a woman, and you're like, I'm gonna wait for the woman, because you can't, like, you're not allowed to talk to guys anymore all of a sudden, even the most innocent things. It really, it controls your whole life and you don't even realize it. You are living for them. You are following their direction. They make it easier to just be compliant and be submissive. So you just kind of give up, which is resignation in the stages of a trauma bond. You're just like, fine, I'll do it your way, thinking that that's going to make it better. And guess what? It never does.
It gives
It
them
never
more
does.
power. It emboldens them even more. Lisa, let's, you know what? Let's, for those, because this is all about the TikTok influencers that people should really know about. So if you don't mind, is it okay just to play a quick video of yours? So
Absolutely, yes.
I keep watching these men on this app try to convince women that we still need them. Like, all these men that are like, we don't need women anymore. Anytime a woman is like, okay, I don't care, they're like, you know what? We don't care more. Women like you are just gonna die alone with cats and box wine. Good luck being alone forever. It doesn't even matter that every single study shows that men are the ones who are going to die alone. Reality? Nah. Men are done with women like you. Do you promise? Real men want... Hold on. Real men want traditional women. Like, okay, so go get one. Why are you talking to me? You know those dudes that'll call you a whore because you won't sleep with them? Or they ask you out and you say no and they're like, you're ugly anyway. Okay.
I laugh every time I watch it. And actually, around the time that you commented on that video,
times. I watched it so
have I, to be honest. So there was a man that was commenting the day that you commented, and he is still commenting, and it has been weeks.
He's still commenting?
He is still commenting. I don't even want to say his screen name, but it's funny. His screen. Can I say his screen name? I don't mind.
Go for it.
His screen name is Boner.
No! God, no. You're kidding.
Sorry, but like I never make fun of how people look, but I'm just saying, like, yeah, your screen name's Boner and you're online trolling women. Like, okay. You live in a basement. You are the epitome of exactly what we're laughing at. And he's in the comments being like, don't you understand that if you're gonna die, if men die alone, then women die alone? Hello, math. And I'm like, wow, you're dying alone. I'm dying if I'm single with my friends and my sister and my
cat
that you think is silly to have. Like, you know what I mean? I'm literally, the alone part is you have no friends and nobody wants to date you.
And your name is
But he doesn't get it. And then the crazy thing is there's just a weird amount of hospice nurses that are also in the comments being like, hospice nurse here, trust me, men are dying alone. And I'm like, as if I needed the reinforcements. There's so many studies to prove this. But I mean, it's not funny that men are dying alone. I'm actually not laughing at that because the patriarchy hurts everyone. And I'm like a feminist for that reason.
Yes.
But like, they're dying alone because that's this man is exactly why he's the living proof.
And you would hope with the subject matter too that you're talking about, narcissistic abuse in general, but focusing on the narcissist, you would hope too that you would get quite a few comments on your videos, obviously from people who've experienced it, who are reaching out to you saying, "Oh my God, thank you so much." But do you get the guys, do you get the narc comments?
I get many comments, and you can't tell from a single comment who's a narcissist, but I do find that there's that strange amount of people. It's a lot of men, not all men though. It is some women too that are like, narcissist is only 1%, and they're immediately defending or right. I will block you in an instant if you say things like, stop demonizing narcissists. They're not all bad and they're wounded children that need help. And I'm like, anyway, blocked. Absolutely not. That's not even true. And also, I love how you're on the page of a survivor trying to say, but what about the perpetrator of abuse? They feel bad too. Really, they feel terrible when they call the people B words and strategically and cunningly destroy them over years. Like, I'm sorry, you get no pity. How hard it must be for you to hurt people. Aw, like zero empathy. That's where you can go ahead and call me a narcissist. I've got zero empathy. But I also think empathy without obligation. If you feel empathy towards your abuser, I really understand it because, man, I've been there. But empathy without obligation. You do not need to stay. You can feel bad the hell away from them.
Yeah, absolutely. I will say this to anybody who is experiencing this: get out, get away if you can, and absolutely no contact, because that you open up that contact, you're opening up the feeding tube, and you want to just stay away as much as you can. And I know it's difficult when if you have a narcissist, if you have someone who is a parent, oh God, I can't imagine having a mother or a father who's a narcissist, but especially in a romantic relationship, get out if you can. There is no recuperation, there is no rehabilitation or any of that. So God, I could talk to you forever and ever, Lisa. You're my new BFF because we've been trauma bonded.
Right? Brutal.
I'm going to make sure that everybody knows about your wonderful TikTok page. I will have the link to Lisa Sonni's TikTok page in the show notes. She's also, if you're searching on there, you can put in the search bar "stronger than before," and
that's right.
She shows right up there because she's got a very popular page. And it's sad.
Yes, I do.
It's good. I
know it is. No, I agree with you. It's sad. I say that, like, when I log in to my clients, it's like, I'm so sorry that you need this kind of support and that you've been through this. It's absolutely awful. But yeah, I'm on all platforms as Stronger Than Before, which is a screen name that really makes sense, right? You become stronger than before through this process. So find me, follow me.
Well, I'll make sure that they get to you. No worries about that. Thank you again so much, Lisa Sonni, for being on the show. You are an influencer that people really should know about. So thank you again.
Thank you.
And I want to thank you, wonderful listeners and viewers. If you're watching this on YouTube, share this. Listen, if you know of someone who's experiencing this, it's very important that you share this information. I think so that they don't feel all alone, but it also gives them that strength to make those changes in their life and take their life back. It's something that it's underreported. It's not talked about. It's embarrassing for some people. I know from personal experience, but we need to talk about it and we need to get the help to those folks. So please do check out Lisa's TikTok page. And if you're interested in the work that I do, I'm a media coach. I help people create TikToks and videos and podcasts and help them with their web, anything to do with the media, multimedia. I like to do that. So if you want to reach out to me, you can at christineblasdale.com. And I will also have a link in the show notes to the TikTok influencers TikTok page. TikTok. And just make sure that, again, you share this information with somebody that you care about. All right. Until next time, as I always say at the end of the show, keep on scrolling through TikTok because you never know when you land on that person that is going to really make an impact on your life or it's going to make you laugh, just like my wonderful guest today, Lisa. All right. Take care, and we'll talk to you soon.